Welcome, guys, to our Black Excellence talk that we've been having. We have every February, Black History Month. I think we try to have this discussion about Black excellence and understanding that it's always around, but at least we get a chance to highlight it during this month. When you talk about what Black excellence really is, it's refers to high achievement of for ability for Black people to have high achievement in all things that are generally Black and to highlight those things. And I think this movie that we're going to talk about today is a perfect example of Black excellence, a Black achievement in many different ways, and that's the Book of Clarence. I'm going to read a quick synopsis about it so everyone knows what it's about. Here it goes. A down on his luck man struggles to find a better life for his family while fighting to free himself of debt. Captivated by the power and glory of the rising Messiah, he risks everything to carve his own path to a divine life, ultimately discovering that the redemptive power of belief may be his only way out. That's a pretty good synopsis of what actually happened. This movie stars Lakeith Stanfield, Anna Diop, R.J. Kyler. I'm sorry, Caleb McLaughlin. From Stranger Things. Tiana Taylor was another good one. So we have a lot of good people, interesting people. What's your first feeling about the Book of Clarence? First, Dad.
Hey, by the way, Dr. B. Bryon's my son, so we get a chance to talk about these things together. You look forward to February to be able to talk about these different movies. So I really look forward to these times, and I'm really excited to talk about the Book of Clarence because boy, this is one of those movies that people don't know how to take, because especially in the Black community, to have something about that's religious but a little bit off. Some people will call it sacrilegious. Other people might say, hey, you're making, fun of, biblical times, that's not good. Or, I believe that a lot of people will say that, boy, Black people weren't, there back then. In fact, I have to say, really back then in Jesus' time, the people looked more like me than other people. They were darker skinned people because, of course, it was many years ago and they lived in Northern Africa. Of course, they're dark skinned people.
2,000 years ago in Africa, come on, what's going
right. on. Exactly. I wouldn't say that they would probably look more like me and my complexion and you, as far as our complexion, than it would be for, darker skinned person or fairer skinned people like they show today. So, and I think people will have a hard time really being able to connect that both white people and Black people, all people, because when they think about biblical times, they see what has been, narrated, propagated, those types of things,
That was actually a very big point for me. I had a discussion with my friend Chillmonger about this movie because he said it's a little sacrilegious. He didn't like the trailer. He didn't think that was a good thing for them to do. He think it wasn't highlighting Black people in the right way. And I understood where he was coming from. My point was that just as a African American, culture has been stolen from a lot of Black people. People believe their culture started with slavery, so that slave culture is always in the realm of thought. That's as far as we go back, not realizing that you're one of the most original people, that you've been around since beginning of time, that there are the book, you got Kush, you got Quebec, you got Egypt, you have Ethiopia, you have these unbelievable places where people, all knowledge was the center of all knowledge. And
right, sure.
Black people have been around since then. So seeing it in a movie form, that no matter, even if it's in Jerusalem, seeing Black people there, I thought that was very powerful and important to see and to know.
I would probably disagree a little bit with what Kim Munger said about that. I thought it was a wonderful movie. I thought it was wonderful to see Black people in a variety of lights, because usually, Black people, we have certain tropes that we often see Black people in. This is very different. And that's why it was just like, wow. It's very similar to when I got the experience when I was in Africa, that I look around and everybody around me, they're Black, And so looking at this movie, I had that same experience, like, hey, this is biblical time and everybody's Black. And that was really a great feeling. However, I do
Hmm.
want to say though, I do want to say that really it's important that when you go see this movie, you're open minded.
Hmm.
Don't be judgmental. It's a story, just like any other story. You know, we see stories about many different things that seems a little different, but we're open minded to it, and I think that's what it requires for this movie. You know, put away your religious perspective because this is not about religion at all. This is really more
It
about a
is a little
story.
bit. It is a little bit, but it's more about. I mean, it has. So I don't fully disagree with Chill. It's more because there are some black tropes in here. I don't
No,
like the fact that your main character has to be a hustler or some type of thief, quote unquote
yeah,
thief, or in fact that they all were doing drugs. You all had to smoke marijuana or sell drugs or things like that. Those type of tropes are not always great and don't put black people in their best light. But I think it shows the whole you know the frame of what black people are. Black people are not just one thing; they're many things. They are good, they're bad, they have positive, they have negative, they have all those things. And
mhm,
understanding that I think is important. And
yeah,
not just trying to say that we're only this. I only want to show this one thing. No, it's everything.
yeah,
We are
yeah,
all colors of the rainbow.
yeah, yeah. I agree with you. Um, However, I think when I looked at this movie, I saw it like in different segments.
Hmm.
Although they have book one, book two, book three, book one and two is really getting it going. Book three, you know, really gets, fully into what it's trying to do. And so I thought that was really great. And then the end. However, for me, I can see different themes. You know,
Hmm.
the first thing that I noticed was really about looking at Clarence and himself. His mother had a great quote about be the body, not the shadow.
Hmm.
You know, live in space. I thought that was a fantastic quote. You know, be the body, not the shadow. Be in space. The idea of, be yourself, recognize who you are in the world, and not just a reflection of it. Be who you
Hmm.
are. It's just
Don't be
that
afraid to
sometimes,
live too. She
right,
was like,
live and be you, right.
hmm.
And you don't have to try to be anybody else. You don't have to be less of yourself. Be fully yourself, and be present for yourself at the same time. I
Mm.
thought that was just a deep, deep quote, made me think about it a little bit. How much are we ourselves, or are we trying to play the shadow? And I think that was a question for even Clarence, because oftentimes he was playing the shadow, not fully himself. But I don't think he really knew who he was, though, and that's why I think what are those things that we have to see, that a lot of, let's say the truth, a lot of young people, particularly black men, males, don't know who we are, and so there many black males are playing the shadow and not themselves. And that coming from his mother, I thought was a deep quote. Be
Okay.
ourselves, be who we are, not the shadow. Make space for ourselves. And I thought that's what really the challenge in book one for Clarence, to be able to work through trying to be himself, you know?
Okay.
So that was
Okay.
one thing that I noticed.
What did you feel about the performance of Lakeith Stanfield? How did you feel
I
about his
thought he did
performance?
well. I don't want to give it
Because he was
away
both
yet, but
Clarence and Thomas. So
right.
this is full spoiler too. So him being both Clarence and Clarence
Yeah.
Thomas, I thought that was pretty cool. But
Right, me too, right. Uh-huh.
but be Clarence and Thomas and being both disciple or apostle uh in one instance, and then being our main character in the other, and showing the duality of both sides of that person and of those people. And
Yeah.
then I think Clarence, feeling like it was more important for him to stay and be able to take care of his mother and be there for her, be there, and Thomas sacrificing and leaving and following the Messiah, following Jesus around, and that
Hmm.
he felt a certain type of way about him, leaving. And I thought
Hmm.
that was interesting too, and within the story, I thought all of that was great. But him doing both roles was great.
Yeah, it was, and being able to show how you can play both characters, really the different side of the same character.
Yes.
One,
Exactly.
which knew exactly who he wanted to be and was doing it. The other was trying to find out who he was. And,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
the same character and seeing, especially as twins, being able to see that. And, you know, I know a little bit about that being a
Because you're a
twin.
twin yourself.
I'm a twin. So I knew exactly what they were talking about when you have this, you know, the same coin, but different sides of it.
Hmm.
But I also saw that in my second thing I noticed that the movie talked a lot about the idea of your relationship to those things outside of yourself.
Hmm.
First, it was like your relationship to yourself. Then it was the relationship to things outside of yourself. You know, like your relationship with the environment, you know, your relationship with your boys. You know, there was like a little thing about weed, you know, how
Hmm. You
those
said
things
they were
out,
selling.
weed was such a big deal, you know what I mean? And then you gang violence a little bit, a gang culture, you know. So it has some of those themes in it, how it would be for really young black males, you know,
Hmm.
what you have to deal with, how it is to be in gang culture, or if it's not gang culture, but you know, uh, uh, group culture, and what that looks like, and weed, and how you use weed, and how you gamble, and all those types of things that you're really trying to look and find yourself in this environment that may not be the best for you, but it is the environment that you live in, you know?
Which is is a reality for a lot of black people. So I mean, I felt that that's what this movie was really trying to do, trying to
Hmm.
bring what things that the stuff that you're going through now and kind of put frame it in the time of biblical times and give you
Right.
understanding of what what you're not dealing with anything different. This is something
Hmm.
that people have to deal with all the time. So, but you
Hmm.
still make your own choices. You still have to make your own decision and find yourself. Finding yourself is not a new concept. This is a concept that's been out for forever. You have to
Yeah,
figure out who you are,
part
and
of growing up.
it's part of growing up and maturing and learning,
Right.
responsibilities and all those things. And that's something that no matter what age you're in, that had to happen.
Yes. And that was the theme here, that really it was time for Clarence to grow up and make some decisions. Like I said, find himself, you know, be himself, not the shadow. You know, be who
Mhm.
you are, figure out who you are, and be in the environment, learn about those things. And it seems like, you know, book 1 and 2 is just about that, himself in the environment, growing up and maturing. What does it look like, you know? But I thought I saw a third thing though.
Okay.
And the thing about black males and women, you know, and how here is Clarence trying to find himself, and rather than really spending time finding out who he is, you know, and how he fits in the world and his own thing, chasing after a woman. I know as men, that's what we
That's
do.
not a huge thing because I mean, well, he wasn't. It wasn't like he was a little kid. It wasn't like I mean, and you're expecting him to not, be attracted to women and not
Nope,
to find someone that you like. Then go
nope.
ahead. I mean, I think that's still they were trying to. He had to find a love interest, and they were very clear to making sure everyone understood that uh, they have not had sex. They're not they're they're virgins. That was a very big thing for them. Um, but I think there's always going to be a woman there. The problem is, do you make it a distraction or not? Is that the most important thing or not?
That's the point I'm making.
Having
Hey,
her there is not the problem.
it's
It's just that when you make it the most important thing for you is the problem.
That's the point I'm making. Sure, hey, that's part of growing up. Again, that's part of growing up and maturing. However, when we put it out of priority, when it becomes an issue, that's all I'm saying. It's out of priority. He didn't know who he was, and he really didn't spend much time trying to find that out. All he was concerned about is her and trying to get her. You know,
I think
what would impress her?
the most important thing for him is to prove that he
The what?
mattered. That he mattered, that he was out there, that he mattered. Like I'm not a nobody, and that's something that was a theme that continued to say that I'm not a nobody, and not
But,
just it wasn't just for her, because it's also in frame in reference to her brother that it was all or in reference to Elijah, so who looked up to Clarence. It was all
mhm,
I matter. I want everyone to know that I matter. No matter if Dirty Zeke,
mhm, mhm.
it was those type of concepts.
But when you say that's all about growing up, though, when you grow up, you find out that you matter, not because you love this or love that or do this or do that, because you matter. And I
Mhm.
think that trying to look outside of yourself to determine that you matter is the issue. Now, We all got to deal with the environment. We got to deal with people. We got to deal with all that stuff. But I think that was part of Clarence's growing up. His relationship with Elijah, his relationship, with his mother, his relationship with these people, really trying to find out who he is. Even her big brother, trying to figure out what that is.
Yeah, Asher. No, not it was Asher. Oh no, it's Jebediah. Jedediah.
Jebediah,
The
yes,
terrible,
Jebediah.
the terrible.
Yeah,
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 that was
yeah.
interesting. I gotta tell
But
you that my favorite part of this movie was by far was John the Baptist. John the Baptist baptizing
that
them was so great. He just kept on
was
slapping them, and
funny.
he was drowning them. And he knew exactly what he was supposed to be doing. David Oyelowo, was it? I think it's Oyelowo.
Uh-huh.
He played him, and it was so good. I was cracking up.
Yeah.
He's the one to baptize Jesus, so he's like, "Oh yeah, you want to come to me because that's what I do." He played it so very well. I
He did an
love that
excellent
part.
job. It was an excellent job. It was funny, and that's the other thing. I want to make everybody know. It had funny parts, made me laugh. I mean, in the theater, people were laughing, and I would say, if I had to say it, most black people were laughing because they, some
They got it.
southern
You
jokes. They
understood.
got it. You got to be able to get it. And when people got it, it was really funny to hear a lot loud laughter and other people looking around saying, "What's funny?" So it was really, really good. And that's the other thing. This is the type of movie you want Black people to support
Mm-hmm.
because it shows us in the variety of lights. We're
Mm-hmm.
not just people. We do live in urban areas, but we're not just that. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we live in rural areas too. We are aspiring to be more. We have all these things just like anybody else. However, to actually see a film that looks at us in our growth development and looks at us, in our process of becoming is really rare. And
Yeah,
so
but
and then
you
see,
have
so
that, but also seeing Nicholas Pinnock as Jesus.
oh
So
yes,
seeing Nicholas Pinnock as Jesus is
Jesus,
huge, and seeing the lessons that being taught that we know about, seeing on screen and understanding it, and understanding whatever my father says, and then seeing how things played out, and
yeah,
I thought that was really cool. But even seeing Michael Ward as Judas, like
yes,
all that's very powerful. The entire thing. I thought,
yeah.
and those performances were very good and very important, and I
Well,
really enjoyed those things.
well, you said something I was sort of holding off, but seeing a Black Jesus was,
Hey,
was
Black
like,
Jesus is great because you know what,
wow,
you know
Black
what
Jesus.
was hilarious though, because you saw Benedict Cumberbatch as
Yeah, the white Jesus, the
the white
white
Jesus, yeah, the white
imposter, right?
picture of
Imposter.
Jesus. That's what he
Right,
does, even
right.
though he was really a beggar on the street, and that he got blessed and
Uh-huh.
got a haircut in the bath, and just caught up in something, and then he was also crucified, but just happened to be there, and that's the person that they decided to paint, which was hilarious. Like, I just thought that was so funny the way they did it, and the fact that Benedict Cumberbatch was willing to go and be that character,
Yeah, yes, yes.
along with James McAvoy, willing to be, it's not Roman,
The,
but
the well, the Roman, not even just the guard, but the
yeah,
Roman in
but no,
charge.
he was the
Pontius
one,
Pilate. Pontius
yeah.
Pilate. Yes.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So I thought that was interesting. Just having different people doing these type of things, and everyone willing to tell a story, to tell the
Yes.
story along with, because it's not just all black cast. It's the fact that
Yeah.
you have mix between black and white, and everyone understanding what the point of the story is, and seeing that within that world. I thought that
Mhm.
was very powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it was serious, but it was funny. And it was well written and well acted. To
Mm.
see that was just fantastic to see. And that's why I said I think more of us should definitely go and see it because it really will, you'll be proud of it and say, yeah, especially if you get past the religious thing and because that is just a
It's not
shadow,
word for what's going on in the Bible.
Right.
There's a lot of things that goes on even with that, because we gotta remember there are a lot of books of the Bible. There's gonna be a lot of perspectives of the Bible. Like they were all, the King James version is not just the end all be all. There are a lot of things that are written during that time. So I mean, I just think that this, just being able to see something from a different vision, like a different scope, is okay, and to
Yeah.
not just take it as the law, but just understanding what this is. This is just another view, another type of thing that's coming out. So I thought that was okay, and you have to understand those things.
Yeah. Just to really continue with what you're saying, to recognize that really during Jesus's day, there were many false messiahs. It wasn't just one. It was many messiahs, and it was many books that were written. And so it's really important for us to be open-minded to recognize this is just a story. Just like back then, there were many people who said they were Messiah. So if Clarence said he was the Messiah, there were a lot of people who did it back then. So
Hmm.
it wasn't so different, and the Bible even talks about that there were many false messiahs, and to be able to recognize that this is not being sacrilegious or anything. This is what really was happening back then. So that's one. And to recognize really there are many books that were written. However, in the Council of Nicaea, when they were able to identify those books, what they will say will be canon, how we got our Bible, and that we recognize. But there are other books too. I mean, look at the Roman Catholic Bible too. That's other books too that really traditional Christians don't really identify. So it tells you that a lot of books were written. So to have a story that is, you know, tangential to what we understand about Jesus, it's different. But you have to be open
But okay.
minded and really get the message out of it.
Okay. I want to ask you in this whole thing with what do you see this as? What's the number one thing you see by making this Black excellence? We're talking about Black excellence. What was so excellent about this movie specifically for you?
Well, I would say to see Black people in various roles, various levels, various I, occupations, to see us in a variety of spectrum is just so great to be able to see, and then to see a Black writer, a Black director, a Black actors, and everything, to see all levels being represented by Black people, and then to enjoy the story. I think this is an example of Black excellence,
Hmm.
especially as we recognize how we're the whole spectrum, as you were saying, the whole rainbow of Blackness, and they were represented in this movie. So it was really great to see that. And I just want to say before we end, women are represented in this movie too. So it's
Hmm.
and that's really important to be able to see that too, as we really look at
Alfred
the whole
Woodard. I
spectrum of
mean, that
Black
was a
excellence.
huge, seeing her,
Yeah,
as Green Jean Baptiste, there were great Anna Diop. There were great women in this movie, and they
they
did
were.
wonderful jobs. And
Yes,
I mean, Tiana Taylor is
yeah,
Mary Magdalene. That was
yeah.
huge, and she did a pretty good job acting. So I was impressed.
That's what I mean. Just a variety. And we have to be open enough to, and again, if we want to see more movies, especially representing Black people in really different viewpoints, and nuances, we got to support Black film.
Yeah.
And this is really an example of it, I think.
That's great. Guys, this is what we're doing for February. I'm planning to at least release 9 or 10 videos this month about Black excellence. I want to have different people on. Of course, I'm still having my dad. We're going to do another couple ones
I was
together.
about to say, hey, don't forget about me.
Oh no, I never could do that. But I'm planning on doing things with Anzo and Chill and Danny, and we're gonna do a lot of different things. And I'm gonna have Tank on with us too. So I mean, but I wanted to kind of get this started with my dad, because I feel like he's part of the reason why I was able to even decide to do these things. So I mean, it's important for us to talk about these things. It's important to highlight these things, and I can't wait to talk about the next one, because there's some really good movies that have come out recently, and we will go over it, and I will bring him back in to talk about these things too, because American Fiction is a banger. So
Yes.
with that being said, we will see you again very soon. Once again, I want to thank you, my dad, coming in for talking to us and giving us those insights. It's wonderful insights. So
Yes.
this is what we
Thank
do. We'll
Yes.
see it. Thank you again, Dad.
Thanks, for the invitation. Look forward to the next one. Okay.
All right. We'll see you guys later on the next topic.
All right.